All right. Yep. Okay. Hi. Oh, hi. Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. How you doing? I don't know why I do those intros. Yeah. So welcome back to another episode of, coffee talk, talking coffee games, coffee games. Sure. Yeah. Let's just call it that. Coffee games. Yeah, where I just like to sit down, drink a cup of coffee, and talk with you about, some things in the gaming industry that I find a little bit interesting. So, with the latest news coming out that Xbox took off their name from Game Pass, now it's not Xbox Game Pass, it's just Game Pass, which is nuts. I like to think about a little bit, is Xbox caring about the next gen console wars? And thinking on that, will there be console wars? Does Xbox even care anymore? Are they even trying anymore? Do they even want to be Xbox anymore? And that's why I want to kind of discuss that. But first, before I get to my first point, hi, how you doing? You doing good? Cool. Hey, if you like these videos, definitely click that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know when all of these episodes come out, as well as our weekly podcast. So check that out. But if you enjoy these, definitely subscribe and like and share the video so more people know about games and groceries. Fair enough? Yeah, cool. So let's go into my first point, which is all about the business aspect. I mean, with the next gen, we have to talk business. So, the very first question we need to ask, does Microsoft care about money? Yes, that's a resounding yes. Microsoft cares if they make money. We can always talk about how do they care if everybody buys the Xbox Series X? And I can even say, yes. No matter how PR that they can get with,
the Xbox isn't really our main source of income.
It's not. I understand that, but that doesn't mean they don't care if you buy the Series X. They made the Series X to make a profit. They made the Series X to at least get you onto their platform. The system in and of itself may not be the driving force into their profits, but it's the entrance into the profits. So when they say, oh yeah, we don't care if you buy the Series X, it's totally fine. We don't want you to upgrade. Understand that that's all about branding. That's all about brand or account management. It's to tell you that you can trust us as a company. You can trust us as a brand. We don't care. We're fine. But let's make things clear before you even get anywhere in this video. Microsoft cares about money. And this is all a business transaction. They're in it for the fun. They're in for your enjoyment. Sure, they care about their products, but we need to see this as this is a driving force into their profits. But why is everything so different? Are they even caring about the console wars anymore? It doesn't seem like they're really competing against Sony or Nintendo directly like they used to. And if you watched my last video about, when should a franchise end, I'll link it up here if you haven't seen it yet. But when a franchise ends, I think it's because most people aren't buying it anymore. They have to do something different. Profits are decreasing, so they know people aren't enjoying it anymore. And that's what I'm starting to see with Microsoft, with the Xbox, with their consoles, is that they know they haven't really beaten Sony in a while. I mean, one could argue maybe the 360 beat the PS3. I would argue a little bit differently, but we can say for sure in this generation, the Xbox One was decimated by the PlayStation 4. And they know that. And they know that because they lost profits there, because they know they lost the generation, if you want to say that. I think that's why we're going to see something different, because they know that their console branding isn't working. Their console branding isn't getting them the wins, if you want to say it that way. And so now we're seeing something different from Microsoft. We're seeing them going into Game Pass. We're seeing them going into streaming, which I'll get to in a minute. But that's why we're starting to see that they're not really starting to compete in console wars in a traditional sense, if that makes sense. But I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But I just want to make the first thing really easy. Do they care about money? Is it still a business? Yes. They're not trying to get out of the game, but they're trying to switch their dynamics, switch their marketing tactics and switch their audience. So this is going to be an interesting generation, which brings me to my next point. So let's talk about Game Pass for a little bit. A lot of opinion pieces are coming out saying that Game Pass is actually the next gen console for Xbox. And while that can be a little bit funny at times, I think that can be true, really. They're putting a lot of money, they're putting a lot of time and effort and a lot of resources into Xbox Game Pass. I mean, think about it. You can get into Game Pass for $1. You can get into Game Pass and it gives you hundreds of games, including first-party titles from Xbox with their many studios that they purchased day one on Game Pass. That's insane value. But even after that, all you have to pay is $15 a month and you get Game Pass on console, PC, and you also get Xbox Live Gold, which reports are coming out that they're dropping Xbox Live Gold for good, and they're going to make online free, which maybe we'll get to in another video. But really, it seems like their driving force is Game Pass, and that's what they seem to be putting their resources behind. When they say that when you get the Series X, you're going to get so many games out the gates, they say thousands of games at launch because of backwards compatibility, but also if you buy the Series X with Game Pass, there you go. Look at all these games you have. You don't have to purchase any games with your Series X. You can just buy Game Pass and stick with Game Pass, and there you go. That's why I said in the beginning that Series X is merely just a gateway into their platform. It's not really buy the Series X to beat out PS5, but buy the Series X to get into Game Pass. So this is just an insane value for gamers. $15 a month and you get all these games, kind of like Netflix where you get all those movies. Where Netflix, sure, you don't own those movies, and the same with Game Pass, you don't really own those games, but you get access into those games straight away. And that's what I think their focus is on, is Game Pass more than console wars. And that's kind of weird, but we have to look at it in a different kind of light, where saying that if they're not really doing this in full competition against PlayStation or Nintendo, who are they competing against? So Phil Spencer has already said in other reports, I'll hopefully bring up the article soon. It will probably be linked down below if I remember to. But Phil Spencer has already said that their real competition going into next gen is Google and Amazon, which makes a lot of sense now that we're seeing this a couple months later, because with Game Pass coming out, that feels more directly against Amazon, especially with Twitch Prime and all that. That's more free games. I get that. But now we're seeing a lot of competition against Google, especially because now the reports are saying that xCloud can destroy Stadia, which I might get into another video. I know I promised 2 videos already within the same video. Go me. But now we're starting to see that xCloud is going to be a platform that's connected to Game Pass that has all these games on it, and it's going to be competing against Stadia. And so we're starting to see that Microsoft is really going after people who are trying to get into the game streaming lights. Now, when I made my first point that this is a business move, when I said in my last video, right, when the franchise should end, when it starts to lose profits, you have to switch directions. Microsoft knows that they've been losing the console generation for at least the past 2. So they're starting to switch the tracks and start to say, well, if we can't win with the console generation, where can we win? And they saw that the streaming platform was a brand new platform. It's the Wild West of the gaming industry. And they started to say that we need to get our foot in the door of streaming platforms, and that's where we can win. Google is just becoming new into video games in general, whereas Xbox, Microsoft has been in the video game industry for years, decades. So they know video games, they know streaming platforms, So that's where they know they can win because that's where their competition lies. So it's going to be interesting because we now see the true competitors against Microsoft in this generation are Stadia and Amazon. So it's going to be weird to see that marketing for Xbox is really going to go against streaming platforms. You might see against PlayStation sometimes, but the true colors are starting to come out that they're focused on Game Pass, they're focused on xCloud, they're focused on making the Xbox Series X more of a gateway into a platform than anything else, versus the PlayStation 5 is you're coming into a console. Look at these games, look at these exclusives. It's being marketed as a console, whereas the Series X is being marketed as more Game Pass than anything else. So I think when we talk about a console war, we talk about the generation of streaming games, and I think Microsoft is switching their focus into that. And that brings me into my final point about the console wars in this generation. So when we talk about is there going to be a console war, I think that's going to be an interesting concept going into this generation, because Nintendo and PlayStation, I don't think they really compete against each other too much. I mean, at least in my history and at least in my knowledge of the video game industry, which is very limited, as you can see, but I don't really feel like those two really compete against each other like Xbox and PlayStation did. But when Xbox is more focused on getting towards Google Stadia and Amazon, will we see that PlayStation is still competing against Xbox and Xbox is competing against Stadia? It's going to be a different mix. And now we're going to maybe see that PlayStation, Sony, might try to follow the steps of Xbox, but I don't even see it that way because there's not really a replacement for Game Pass on Sony's platform. And I think it's going to be a very interesting console war just to observe. I'm not really about the console wars. I have all three consoles. I don't really care. I just love video games in general. I am more Xbox fan than anything else, so I think that's, been pretty obvious. I don't know. But that's the thing, is that this console generation is going to be the most interesting to observe because there's going to be a lot of different factors that goes into this. Is PlayStation going to compete against Xbox, whose Xbox is going to compete against Stadia and not competing? It's going to be like a love triangle, almost a love triangle. Thank you, brain. But also we're going to see Nintendo just competing against themselves. Nintendo's going to have their own platform. So I just think this is going to be wild to see. And altogether, I think it's going to be interesting. But to answer the question, will Xbox compete in the console wars? Yes and no, because I think the Series X is technically a console. It technically is, but their hearts lie on marketing in the streaming platform. So I don't think we're going to see Xbox compete in the console wars the way we've seen in the past. And I think that's going to be interesting. All right, so I want to hear from you now. Write down in comments down below. Do you think Xbox is going to compete in the console wars? Do you think that they're just going to be focused on Game Pass and not about their console? I want to hear from you. I'm generally interested, so genuinely interested. Okay, Adam, but write your comments down below. Is PlayStation going to win this generation because they're going in solo, basically? Is Nintendo going to start competing against PlayStation and vice versa? I want to hear all your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a like and a share so that more people know about the channel. And like I said before, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so that you know when all these videos come out every Thursday. And our weekly podcast comes out on Mondays. So thank you for watching this video. You are valued. Just know that. And I will see you in the next one. And please wear your mask.